Welcome to Byte-Size Data Science. It's time to join the larger world and start talking about geographic information systems and standards. We had a glimpse at spatial data in the previous video. We saw polygons similar to the one here. There are standards for these geometry objects. The first two standards I want to mention are known as WKT and WKB, or well-known text and well-known binary representations. Those were introduced in 1999 by the Open Geospatial Consortium. The latest update to the standard was done in 2015. These formats may include a reference to a projection system or a coordinate reference system. This way, it would be possible to get data from one coordinate system projection and convert them to another projection system. By following these standards, it is possible to exchange information between disparate systems. Another important term we must know is shapefiles. Shapefiles were introduced in the early 1990s by the GIS company Esri. Esri has been working on geographic information systems since 1969. Shapefiles are really a collection of files because spatial information is a lot more than just geospatial coordinates. Each spatial object can have a lot of metadata, including name and description, for example. The three mandatory files are .shp file that defines a feature geometry, .shx file that is an index to speed up some processing, and .dbf file that contains the attributes for each geometry. It's interesting to see that the dbf file is in dBase 4 format from Ashton Tate fame. dBase 4 was introduced in 1988, but we can trace its origin all the way back to 1973. I remember the first time I dealt with shapefiles. I ended up writing a program to extract the data from those files. There is an easier way. Let's get into a notebook. I am using the IBM Watson Studio environment to run my notebook. If you are interested, you can find a link in the description on how to create a free account on that platform. Links to the notebook I'm using here are also available in the description. After installing GeoPandas and importing libraries, I'm reading a zip file that contains the shapefiles. We'll talk about the zip file origin in the next video. We can see we have our three mandatory files in addition to a few more. This set of files contains information on cities in Illinois. The metadata comes from the dbf file and the geometry comes from the shp file. In the metadata, we have the internal longitude and latitude and the more complex geometry in the form of a polygon or multi-polygon. We can read both files with a simple GeoPanda method. We see that we have 1,369 places in Illinois. Before we move on, we have to check the data types of the columns. We see that int ptlat, or interior point latitude, and int ptlon are both of type object. We have to convert them to numeric values if we want to use them. What is a geometry? It turns out here it is a polygon as defined in the Shapely library. There is a lot of information that can be extracted from a geometry. Here are some examples. If we use the print command to print a geometry, we get its well-known text representation. If instead we simply call the geometry in a notebook cell, we actually get a graphic representation. As we saw in an earlier video, video 44, we can display the geometries on a folium map. In that video, I had loaded a JSON file and displayed the geometries on a map. I did it that way because I did not want to introduce shapefiles at that time. The result we have here is the same as in video 46. There is one more library I want to introduce, Spatial. I've had some issues with the library, so be careful, especially if you want to use both GeoPandas and Spatial together. Spatial can read many types of files as shown here. We said that GeoPandas was reading shapefiles. Spatial reads files separately. You can read the .dbf file and extract details such as the header, the data type of each column, and read the records themselves. The same can be done while reading the SHP file. In this video, we learned about important standards such as well-known text and shapefiles. We also learned that shapefiles can easily be used through the GeoPandas library. We're now ready to take advantage of all sorts of geospatial data. See you next time on Byte-Size Data Science, and don't forget to subscribe.